Okay, this is my assignment 3 video for graphics. Just a heads up, I did not get to the sphere problem despite ample warning about how long it would take. I did not leave myself enough time. So, just going to do everything else. So the first question was about separating the camera matrices from the world matrix for the simple color 3D shader. So first of all, we have the structs here with the view and projection, and then the world having different constant buffers, and then these are reflected in the simple color 3D constant buffers right here. So here are the shader constants. And then in the CPP, dxapp.cpp, this is where the buffers are actually, we actually reserve space on the GPU and save it to the different constant buffer handles. And then we have to make sure that these indices correspond to these in the shader code. And then when you actually draw something, you just have to send the camera data once per frame. And then that's constant for all of the objects. So then you just update the world matrix information into the world constant buffer, update that resource, and then you draw. So here's an example of that working. So here are for the two different the two different pyramids. So there's world 1 and world 2. So that's what's being updated here. So you're just trading out which you don't need to reload the camera the camera matrices. You just need to trade off the world matrices, and so you can have two, like so. Okay, and then question 2 was about the unit pyramid. Yes. So in the model constructor, I uncommented the pyramid. So in the tools, this is the create unit pyramid code, and it just assigns the basic colors as well. Right, pretty simple. And then have this model, which is created. You can use the unit pyramid when you create it, and then you set it to the context, so you set up all of the vertices and index shaders to the input assembler, and then down in the draw scene, you can just render it, call the render function. So we get this pyramid in wireframe mode. Okay. Next one is the 3 pre-made models on the screen at the same time with one shader. So because I only am using 2 actual models, you only need the box instance and the pyramid instance, but you do need the 3 different world matrices. And then here's all of that, same setup. So if we go up here, we are setting up the shader, setting up the buffers. You just create one instance of the box, one instance of the pyramid, initialize the world matrices. So then down in the draw scene, you send the camera data. The first thing I'm doing is just a box, and you have to set that to the context. So the vertices and index buffers for the box are ready in the rendering pipeline. So then, and also the box is a world matrix and its color. So then when you call render, everything's set up. But then when you switch over to doing pyramids, I should probably put this first, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. You set the pyramid vertices and indices to the input assembler, and then just for this specific pyramid, that'll be the same for all the pyramids. For this specific pyramid, you have to do the world and the color, update that, and it will render this pyramid. And then you can use the same model, you just have to update the color and the world once again, and then render it, and it should be good to go. So here we are with 3 different colors, box in the middle, and then both pyramids are using the same model with the color selected vertex shader, which is loaded up earlier. So the next thing was having 4 models, but using 2 different shaders. So basically you have to have handles to the different pixel and vertex shaders. So we have color selected and then simple color. you have the 4 different world matrices for the 4 different locations of the objects, but then once again, you only need 2 instances because I only have boxes and pyramids being drawn. So then in init demo, you are going to compile and create the color selected vertex shader, color selected pixel shader down here, simple color 3D vertex shader, and simple color 3D pixel shader, and save those to all of the handles that were defined in the header. Once again, you only create 1 instance of each of the models, and then you initialize all the world matrices. So then in the draw scene, you can set the camera data right at the beginning. That never changes. Then we're going to be in box mode. We're just going to draw all the boxes, but each box has a different shader. So first we need to set the vertex and pixel shaders for the color selected, update the constant buffers, and then render the box. We can keep all the box information because I'm still rendering boxes, so I don't need to set it to context again, but I do need to change the change the shaders that are being used. So I set the shaders that I want, which now I want the simple color, update the world matrix, don't need the color, simple color has that encoded, and then call render. Then we're going to go in pyramid mode, so we load the pyramid in vertex and index buffers to the input assembler, and then start with the color selected. So we have to set up that shader, world and color information, render. Don't need to send this to the GPU again. The model information is already there, just need to update the world constant buffer and render that using the simple color 3D vertex shader. So when that happens, we have all of this. So we have these 2 using using the color selected, these 2 using the simple color. But then these 2 are using the same models, and these 2 are using the same models, just updating the correct constant buffers. Okay. Yes, I think that's good. And once again, the shaders don't change at all. They're exactly the same. So yeah. And then in terms of further work, for the first question, it was can you reuse the instance of the models? The answer is yes. I think I explained how I did that. You don't want to have to set context if you're using all the same model information. You just need to update the individual objects information, which is color in some cases, but mostly the world matrix. And then, yeah, the disadvantage to creating a new model for every single instance is just a lot of wasted information to the GPU. You don't need to reset all this stuff, and it's costly. It's wasteful. And the example we used in class was bullets. If you're doing a bazillion bullets, there's no need to load all that information for every single bullet. All that information's already there. You just need to change the world matrix or whatever it is. And then further work 2 was designing a simple shader class. Mine is very simple because I don't know really what else it would need, but my idea is that you would pair vertex shaders and pixel shaders into one shader, I believe. So then when you create a new shader, you would give the file path for the vertex shader and the pixel shader that you wanted associated with that shader, and then this shader class would encapsulate the handles to both of those. So it would compile those, compile that HLSL code, then reserve the space and set up these handles. And then, so like that would be all of this stuff up here where you're creating all this stuff and setting up the handle. And then when you set to context, you do this in the draw part of the code when you're trying to set up the shaders for individual objects, and it would just call those set shaders. So it would replace those 2 lines of code. You would just say, color selected shader, arrow, set to context, and it would replace these lines of code right here. So you don't have to do that manually. That was just the basic setup I have. Maybe we're going to add more and be a little bit fancier about it, about like managing shaders and stuff, but this is my basic idea for now. So I feel like I was rambling a long time. Sorry about that. Once again, did not get this to the sphere. Poor time management. But yeah, that's all I got.